Well, I'm very pleased to say this evening we have two of the top reporters on that world-leading story we had last year on China. We have two panelists with us tonight. David Barboza, who is the Shanghai bureau chief of the New York Times, and Michael Forsythe, who is with Bloomberg News. You probably read their work, but I do have a few little tidbits about them that some people don't know about. David, aside from being a great journalist, has a passion for basketball, so I hear. Spent a lot of time training with Dr. J in his early years, so I wonder if you've been chasing around Yao Ming around China as well. And Michael, I believe you have a nickname. It's like on Weibo. You have many followers on Weibo, and you used to be in the Navy before you became a journalist. Just a few little tidbits behind the scenes of people who end up becoming news stars. Rusty Todd, who many of you are familiar with, is here to moderate tonight's panel with Hong Kong U, and also from Texas. So let me hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to stand in for Robin Meredith tonight, and sort of last minute, I will do the best I can. My accent perhaps will be enough to make up for Robin's absence. Thanks for that. In May of last year, the New York Times published a story about the princelings of China, detailing how that the descendants of the founders of the Communist Party have become quite wealthy. In June, Bloomberg published a piece on Xi Jinping and his associates and relatives who had also become quite wealthy. In October, the New York Times published a piece on Wen Jiabao and how the same thing had happened with his associates and family. They followed that with articles in November and December. Both organizations are now banned in China, their websites. And this is what we shall discuss tonight. I'd like to start with a question, two questions, and then pass it to the audience, and hope we get some good questions from you guys tonight. I'd like to start by asking first for just an update on what your status is, each of your organizations in the PRC. Are there negotiations underway to solve the problem? I remember when the Wall Street Journal was banned in Singapore back in the 80s, 5.5 years, I think it was, when we were banned back then. Can you get visas? In Bloomberg's case, are your terminals banned? Are you able to have new terminals? Let me start with you, Mike.
Thanks, Rusty. So we still can access the Bloomberg website in China, and it's too bad for a lot of Chinese readers who would like to read our stories. It's been a tough time for visas for us. And as far as the negotiations go for when we'll be out of the doghouse with the Chinese government, it's kind of above my pay grade. I don't know what we're doing. It's hard to tell. This is kind of new. These stories that David did and Bloomberg did are kind of new, and I think they hadn't seen this coming really. Although in hindsight they should have seen it coming. We'll have to see. The Norwegian model is good. There's Norway. They a couple of years ago had the temerity to have awarded a Nobel Prize to Barboza, and I think they're still in the doghouse. So there's a Norwegian model to look at.
How about, before I pass it to David, how about money? I know it's perhaps above your pay grade, but do we have a sense of the financial impact it's having on each of your organizations, too?
I mean, it certainly has had a financial impact. There is some misconception. The Bloomberg terminals are they're in China. They still are there. Those still exist. It's hard to tell how much better sales would have been had we not done those stories. But I'm sure real money is certainly at the table.
For the New York Times, our website is blocked, of course, and we're having difficulty with YouTube right now. I can't speak to the financial situation of the New York Times, but I'm sure we're suffering because we do have a Chinese language website, which only opened, I think, about March of last year. So I'm sure they're negotiating, but they're going to involve journalists.
My second question before I throw it to the audience. Politicians enriching themselves at the public trough is not a new phenomenon. You know, I think of perhaps Halliburton receiving no-bid contracts in the Iraq War in the United States from the government, and the fact that Vice President Cheney was on their board. So this is not an unusual phenomenon, and I guess my question is, aside from the fact that your sites have been banned, what's the difference in China? What makes the situation in China different from the way politicians enrich themselves elsewhere, regardless of the form of government they operate in?
I would think it's definitely scale, and the fact that there's no check on it. You know, I don't think David and I should be up here. I think it should be reporters from Caixin Magazine. They want to write these stories, but they can't. They just can't. They're not allowed to. And the idea that the very excellent media in China is not allowed to be a check on the government in China is a serious problem. You know, we here have a bias. We believe in a free press. You know, I think that's a bias. It's a good bias. It's a shame. And so the difference is the scale. And I think the good example you want to look at is LBJ, actually. So, you know, right in Austin there, you can get an Austin example there. So he had a series of radio stations that he acquired about 40, 50 years ago through his influence as a senator. But the scale is so much smaller than what I think David and I saw in the filings that you see. And I would say the acquisitiveness also of these families is quite breathtaking. I don't know how they keep track of it all. It astounds me. So I think the fact that there's no check on their behavior, you know, in Life magazine in 1964, we did come out with a spread on LBJ and his finances. They did do that after he became president. I think they waited a while. Kennedy was assassinated. And then you know, the scale is just I don't know if there's ever been something on the scale in human history, but the level of acquisitiveness that I've seen.
I would agree. You know, when I started working on my piece at the end of 2011, I intended to do sort of a quick piece on the different principles. And then I decided, you know, there's just too much. Sort of focus on one thing. And in the course of the research, I was almost depressed to see more and more companies, more and more industries. I mean, I think I just got you know, he said at least 2.7 billion for the Wenjabao family, but the Wenjabao relatives, I think that's just a small piece. That's just what we could absolutely prove if we went to court. I think it would be multiples of that. And also the families that I didn't write about. You know, I could have written about, you know, 25 other families. So the scale of it is just, even if you know there's corruption in China, it's shocking. And I think the shareholders movement the last 10 to 15 years is really why the scale is so amazing. Is the guys who were looking at it got in at the right time, just before the stock market started to boom. And so in just one company, as you know, that I've written about, it's a $60 billion company. So you just need a small piece of that. And this is just, I'm mainly looking at the publicly listed companies. There are dozens of private companies that were hard to evaluate. How much are they worth? Where did the money go? So I am still stunned as I look back through the papers that I went through over the year at the scale and the breadth of this operation. I think, like I said, you could hit any high-ranking official in China and probably do something very similar.
Okay, let's throw it open to the audience. We ought to have some good questions, given the nature of our audience tonight. Let's see, I think we have first one back here.
Thank you, Rossi. My name is Peng Chin from JMSC, and I have a question to Michael and David. And as you may know that earlier this year, the Hong Kong regulators just proposed that the company's directors' ID card number and addresses to be restricted from the public disclosure. And in March, the government dropped the proposal because of widespread criticism from the public. So my question is, do you guys think that this proposal is a reaction to your articles? Thank you.
I don't know, but we really depended on those filings, and if they had taken away from us, it really would have hurt us. So, I mean, it's great for Hong Kong people to voice their opposition to it.
Yeah, I also think, I mean, anytime they make it less transparent, it's a problem, but to me, Hong Kong is actually not very transparent. The records that I got inside of China are, I would get, for one company, you could get 200, 300 pages, versus when I came to Hong Kong, I got 4 or 5 pages. So what they actually have available in China it's astonishing. And they have real detail. You can get the resumes, the ID numbers, you can get the financial records. I think China is where it's at, but they're starting to scale back that now. Beijing right now is blocked. You can't get any records of private corporations in Beijing. But believe it or not, China's records are more transparent than private corporation records in the U.S., in Europe, and any other country I've heard of. So I think that's the real stunning thing.
Yes, sir. Let's see, maybe, do we have a microphone and another questioner?
Rusty, I'm going to see your Texan accent of raising in Irish.
Hello.
Can I ask both of you, in what ways have you personally been pressured by the government since your pieces came out? And have your pieces in any way made it easier to report in China, or is it the reverse?
You hear this a lot. China is not Russia, and I think that's important. And so I have never, since coming back to China after spending some time away after the story ran, no surveillance that I noticed, no physical threats or anything against me or my family, no goons outside my house. And so I do appreciate that there's still, maybe some civility there. China's not Russia, and if there's any Russians here, I have to apologize. And so, and as far as making my job goes, in fact, David and I were talking about this before the panel, because of the censorship, a lot of people in China, I mean, a lot of people do have read the story, but the stories, but a lot of people haven't. And so it's amazing sometimes when you talk to somebody and they just have no idea, about Bloomberg, and they have no idea about the stories we wrote, and so they're happy to talk to you. But obviously the government, I think that's been written about some of our problems, with that. But personally, I have respect.
I hate to dodge this question, but I can say there were some threats. I don't want to really go into detail, but there was a lot of pressure on me for many months. And particularly after in the final days before my stories came out, I wanted everyone to know, and the government to know, and also the family of the Prime Minister to know. And so we went to them, and the pressure was just amped up. Multiple. So it's hard to really describe it. I don't want to exaggerate the pressure and think that there were definite death threats. But there were lots of threats. There was tremendous pressure, and it was pretty scary. And I think after the stories came out, there continues to be pressure. And I was warned and threatened so much that I lost touch with reality of whether this is real, whether I should really be fearing for my life, or people just imagine some of these things and were relaying them to me, and I should just relax. So, but I can tell you, I got back into China. I haven't had serious problems being in China. I know I'm monitored. I know the people around me are monitored, and email was hacked, and we know what they got. So I think, I don't want to exaggerate and make you think it's, my life is in danger right now, but they were pretty intense about what they were going to do. And they told me that, the government and others told me that directly. I had direct contact.
Can you tell us what they were going to do?
I don't want to.
Sorry. And to me, just not to mislead you, I spent some time out of the country after the story ran. And, there were some issues and threats made, but it wasn't from the government, and in the end, it didn't seem to be well founded. It's just coming back to China, and I've been okay.
See, I see one mic back here, and then maybe the other mic can go to the other hand.